Hi, everyone, and welcome to Norton Rose Fulbright's Texas Business Court Insider, where we track developments in the Texas Business Court and beyond. I'm Andrew Price, and welcome to our latest episode. Be sure to hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of our content.
And I'm Rafe Schaefer. Today we're going to be talking about a recent decision in the Texas Business Court. It's called Reed v. Rook GP. It's authored by Judge Andrews out of the 3rd Business Court Division in Austin.
And what's really interesting about this opinion is it's one of the first to examine the breadth of one of the specific provisions in the jurisdictional portion of the statute, specifically Section 25A.004B. And that provision governs actions that are regarding the governance, governing documents, or internal affairs of the entity. And as we'll see in our discussion, the Texas Business Court took what many would probably say is a little bit broader view of that provision than one might have anticipated.
Right, and the jurisdictional aspect of it is certainly interesting, but the facts of the case are pretty intriguing too. The plaintiff, Mr. Reed, won the Lotto Texas jackpot in May of 2023. He would have won $95 million, but he ultimately took home $7.5 million, and he sued Rook GP and some other defendants, alleging that they illegally manipulated the Texas lottery. The allegations against Rook GP are really the hook for jurisdiction in the business court, and Reed alleges that Rook misrepresented the date it was formed for fraudulent purposes, and was used merely to shield these individuals that Reed alleges fixed the Texas lottery.
Right, and so this case was not filed in business court. It was filed in district court. And so, right off the bat, what's interesting is we have essentially a stranger to Rook. I mean, this guy was not a partner. It's not like a LLC membership, shareholder in a corporation. This is a stranger to the entity. And this person also had no transactional or contractual relationship whatsoever with Rook or any of the other defendants. The claims that Reed brought, exemplify this. The claims against Rook and these various other affiliated defendants were for civil conspiracy, aiding and abetting, assisting and participating in various, commercial torts and fraud, and, concert of action type allegations. So right off the bat, you can see, Rafe, how does this case get into business court?
Well, I mean, Andrew, that was the fight. Rook removed the case to business court, asserting jurisdiction under Section 25A.004B2, alleging that Reed's allegations about Rook's formation, governance, and governing documents created jurisdiction in the business court. And Reed moved to remand the case to district court, arguing exactly what you are arguing or asserting here, Andrew.
Right. So essentially we've got the breadth of this provision at the heart of the court's analysis, and these allegations that this entity, Rook, had been kind of fraudulently and untimely formed. Judge Andrews delved into the statute and basically decided, I think there is jurisdiction based upon the fact that we've got allegations touching upon, impacting, involving an analysis by me, the business court, of the governance, governing documents, and internal affairs of Rook.
Right, and specifically Judge Andrews took that section 25A.004B2 and did a word-by-word statutory analysis. She said that the business court has subject matter jurisdiction under that section of a lawsuit or judicial proceeding that is concerning or respecting 4 things: the management and direction of an organization's affairs, which she calls governance; the documents adopted to govern its formation and internal affairs, which she calls governing documents, its ownership or membership interests, which she calls internal affairs, and then the rights, powers, and duties of governing persons, officers, directors, owners, members, managers, which she also calls internal affairs. Based on that interpretation, she held that whether Rook was created as part of some scheme to rig the lottery concerned Rook's management and duties. It concerned the validity of its formation documents, and therefore the business court had jurisdiction under 25A.004B2.
Right, and Reed had tried to steer Judge Andrews a different direction, kind of as we've laid out. Reed said, look, I don't have anything to do with Rook, and the legislature surely couldn't have meant this to apply to cases like me where I'm a stranger to the entity. I don't have any sort of contractual or transactional relationship to the entity. I'm completely external. And so Reed and Reed's counsel attempted to push on Judge Andrews a predominance test and tried to tell Judge Andrews, look, there ought to be at the heart of the case, the predominant issues need to involve the things that you just described, Rafe. Otherwise, this case doesn't belong in business court and we should be sent back to where we filed it in district court. And Judge Andrews did not agree and basically said, look, the allegations that this entity has been improperly set up here in Texas goes to the very heart of the case and whether or not this is a legitimate business or a business that was essentially created to perpetrate fraud and illegal conspiracy. And with regard to intent, the court, again, as you mentioned, focused on the plain language and said there is no predominance test in the language that the legislature enacted. And if the legislature had wanted to include some sort of predominance test, it could have said so.
Right. And this interpretation of the business court's jurisdiction may allow for much more than mere internal affairs disputes to be litigated in business court under 25A.004B2. The court tried to set some goalposts. Judge Andrews said pleadings containing a tangential reference to a business's governing documents or internal affairs doesn't automatically trigger jurisdiction. But then also, the predominance test isn't needed to establish jurisdiction. And so in between the two, there's obviously a lot of room for potential future disputes to be removed to business court.
Yeah, and I think we can kind of anticipate that, right? The judge tried to take on Reed's argument by saying, as you mentioned, well, look, I'm not going to let just any allegations that touch on governing documents, internal affairs, get you into business court. But what that exactly means isn't exactly clear. And so, Rafe, are there some examples of things we might see in the future where people kind of test the parameters of Reed versus Rook?
Sure. I think, as you and I have discussed, it's easy to, hypothesize a case involving alter ego or veil piercing. You've already got civil conspiracy and concert of action here. Alter ego is right down the road. Can you bring an alter ego allegation against an entity and therefore argue that the importance of your alter ego action gets you into Texas business court? We've seen cases where there are trade secret or non-compete or non-solicitation requirements included in a restricted stock grant. And if an individual gets a stock grant in an entity and therefore becomes bound by additional requirements through that stock grant, does that create jurisdiction in the business court? Because certainly a stock grant that then creates a non-compete obligation is much more than tangential to the case. It's not extraneous. It's directly relevant to how a non-compete or non-solicit obligation can be enforced in the first place.
Right.
So
Well,
all of those are possible avenues, and I'm sure there are a lot more, that will be forthcoming testing Reed v. Rook.
yeah, I think that's for sure. The door has been opened, as we kind of led off at the top of the episode here. The door has been opened that it's not limited to internal affairs. Plaintiffs that are external to the entity can get their case into business court or have their case taken to business court at removal if they have allegations that go to these governing documents and governing concepts of the entity. And certainly lawyers are going to be testing the boundaries of Judge Andrews' opinion. And we at Texas Business Court Insider will be there to follow it all. And if, again, like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all of our content. And we'll see you next time.